Hi everyone, welcome back to Fire Biscuit Gaming. Today we're going to talk about Paladin's Oath Advanced Battle Strategies. If you don't know what Paladin's Oath is, it's a game that I've been working on for a year and a half. It's coming out in March 2022. You will find the link for Steam in the YouTube video description. If you like what you see, please wishlist it, and I hope you enjoy the game. So the tutorial will be about battle concept, advanced battle concepts. If you have not seen the previous tutorials, you should definitely watch those because they explain how do we use manas, how do we activate cards, and of course the basics of the battle concepts. So today we're going to look at battle preparation, how to learn how to buff and debuff yourself and give you a better chance in difficult battles. So select the tutorial and let's get started. So now that the battle scene has been loaded, you can see new things on the screen, specifically that there are more than one enemies that you have to fight now. You can see this Tigrophant here is a guardian, and you can see this vermin here. So they are both, you have to defeat both to win the battle, right? Now you can look at their various stats, which we've covered in the previous tutorial, but I will get through them quickly. Remember, there are 5 stages to the battle. Before battle, where you can buff and debuff. Range, where you get to use siege or range attack to defeat enemies before they have a chance to attack you back. In the block phase, where you can block their attacks. In the attack phase, you attack back and finish them off, hopefully. And the after battle phase is the battle status, where you get your tale about, in English, what happened during the battle. You have a stats-based status screen, and you can see the list of remaining enemies that you have not defeated during that battle. In that case, I've defeated nobody, so I would have to retreat away from the location. Now, a few interesting new concepts here is the concept of fortification, resistances, and immunities. So first, fortifications. When you prepare for a battle, previously you only had to fight one enemy, so you only had and the enemy had no specific resistance or fortification. But when you're playing the game, as you progress towards the crusade, you will realize that either the enemies have natural resistances and fortifications, or they might acquire fortification based on which location you are in when you are battling. So here I'm inside this crack here in the top right corner, and you can see this crack is fortified. And what that means is any enemy inside the crack is by default fortified. You can see each of the enemies here have the fortified trait. Okay, so this one has armor 2 and is fortified. This one has armor 3 and is fortified. Okay, so if an enemy was already fortified naturally, maybe they have an armor or a special shield or something like this, they might already have a fortification, and they also acquire another fortification level from the crack, then they would become double fortified. So what does fortified means? It means that when you are in a range phase, the only way to defeat those enemies is to use a siege attack. Normally in a range phase, you'll be able to use range attacks or siege attacks. But if an enemy is fortified, you have to use siege attack. If an enemy is double fortified, then you cannot even target them with any kind of attacks. Okay, so pay attention to the fortification level of the enemies before you even engage in combat. In most cases, you'll be able to see which enemies you'll be fighting by hovering your mouse on the map. It will tell you whether they are fortified or not. It will tell you whether the location is fortified or not, and things like this. It also tells you which rewards you get for fighting. So double check all of these kind of stats and modifiers. These are very important. It can make or break your combat. Now, if you look at fortification is here, there's also this guy has a fire resistance. What that means is, if I look at my cards here, you see I have red cards. So enemies resistant to fire are also resistant to any effect from red cards that is not an attack or a block. So attack or block will still go through, but everything else, like a debuff, for example. Let's say if I had a card that says an enemy gets destroyed, actually this one, see, this one says enemy gets destroyed or armor -1. Well, that fire resistant enemy would not be affected by this card because it's a red card against a red or fire resistant enemy. So fire is red, frost is blue, and physical is white. Okay, so green can affect anybody, but blue, red, and white, be careful that it doesn't match any of the enemy's resistances. Okay, they won't be able to be affected by those by those cards. Now, some enemies have what we call immunity, and then it shows up also in the corner here. It looks like a bunch of lightnings. If they have this immunity, then you cannot even target them from a so they ignore any kind of effect that is not attack or block, including effects around debuffing, removing resistance and stuff like this. So again, before you enter combat, double check the stats of all of the enemies that you'll be facing inside the combat arena, or you will have a lot of trouble getting coming out alive of this thing. So you cannot really die in the game, but you might end up with a handful of wound at the end of combat, or worse, if the enemies have special attack modifiers like paralysis or something, then you might end up losing all of your cards. So you don't want to do that. Now, one more thing is the ability to check the codex. So in some cases, you cannot see which enemies you're facing. So here you can see them because you've already engaged in battle, but on the map, you might be able to look into let's say a fortified location, like a crack or a spire or a temple or something, and it just says you would be facing this kind of enemy type. And in this case, you just press escape. At any time during the game, you press escape and it shows you a lot of different things. Firstly, it shows you what's in your deck, in your hand, and in your discard pile. Okay, it shows you the followers that you have, your blessings, and all of those things. It shows you the market. Okay, so it's a big recap. You also have the map up here, your inventory and all this, but it also gives you the codex. So if you see here on the right, you have a codex. You just click on this and it's not loading for some reason. Oh, yeah, took a while. Okay, and you have the codex, which shows you information about all of the special abilities in the game and the keywords that you can find in the game. It also shows you the bestiary. So the bestiary is all of the enemies grouped by enemy type. So if you are facing a guardian type of enemy, you just click on guardian, you can see all of the guardians that you could be facing in the game, and you can see, okay, do I have a chance to beat them? Like, do I have a chance to beat half of them or a third of them? Which one I don't want to draw or something like this. So you can check this the codex like this, that will give you information about everything that you can face in the game. Okay. Now, back here, you can just return to the main game, and let's get into the combat. So one thing you can do in combat when you have more than one enemy is you can group them. You can see they have this question mark here. This represents the enemy group. So right now they are singled out. There is no grouping, but you can always click on this and select group. So now it's group A, and then the second one I can choose, do I want group A also, or do I want to create another group? So now you can see at the bottom I have two groups, one for group B, one for group A, and the group letter is also placed on the what do you call this, the portrait. Okay, so it's a very neat way of grouping them. You can also say, okay, I want A, then group B would disappear, and now they're all in the same group. What you will notice though in this group here is that they both have fortification status and both have fire resistance. So the group itself now is fire resistant and fortified. That's a very important concept, which is when you group enemies together, they acquire each other's properties. A slight caveat on resistances is that they will become resistant to fire. So if you try to attack with a fire attack, you will need twice the amount of strength on the attack to be able to deal the damage. But they will not be ignoring, like, only this, I don't know which one, the plant, right? The flower thing is resistant to fire naturally. So only this one cannot be targeted by red effects. The tiger thing can be targeted by red effect, even if it's in a group. The fact that it's resistant to fire here just means that your attacks, or fire attacks, become inefficient and you require twice the amount to be able to deal. So if you want to do 5 damage here, you need to do 10 fire attacks or 5 of anything else, any other kind of attack. Okay, so now that I've grouped them, let's look at what I'm supposed to do. Okay, I'm supposed to bypass one enemy's fortification. All right, I'm supposed to remove an elemental resistance of one enemy, so probably this guy, there's only one here. I'm supposed to defeat a group of enemy in the range phase, and I'm supposed to defeat a group of enemies in the attack phase. So let's do the first one first. Bypassing an enemy fortification. So this is debuff, so it should be done in the before battle phase. So I just click on before battle and I look at the cards that I have here. So this one gives me crystals, okay. This one allows me, my followers, to gain resistance, which I don't really care about right now. I can do some attack, which will be useful later. I can get some crystals, I can do some range attack. I can take wound and do very powerful attack. I can get more crystals. This one can ignore location fortification. That looks like it's interesting. Well, you might do that. Or you can destroy an enemy if I have access to a black mana. Remember, gold and black mana. So gold mana can be used for any color, but only during the day, whereas black mana can only be used at night as a black mana. So this powerful version of the spell here can only be used during the night. So it's not nighttime now, it's a full day. You can see from here in the background. And then the last one is targeted enemy does not attack and loses fire resistance if it has any resistance to fire. And same here, does not attack, loses 4 armor. So I don't care about the bottom action. Let's see if I have any followers. So I have 2 followers. One gives me a bunch of attacks and blocks. The other one gives me a bunch of attacks and blocks. One requires green, the other one requires red. I have some blessing to reduce armor, and I have some additional frost attack here, which can be useful against fire resistant enemy. Okay, let's try to bypass an enemy's fortification. So I had this spell just now, this guy ignores location fortification. So I just activate the spell. So these two things will happen. All enemies would get armor -1, and all enemies will ignore battle arena fortification, which is pretty strong. I can pay my red mana from the ambient mana pool. I can only use 1, remember, so it tells me now I can't use it anymore. But now all of the enemies have lost their fortification and their armor became 2 instead of 3. So it's much easier to kill now. So if I go into the range phase, the group is still here. They still have fire resistance, but they are no longer fortified, and now the 5 became a 4. Okay, so why is it not 3 instead of 4? Because this is a red spell, so the fire resistant enemy was not affected by the armor -1. It was affected by the location fortification because this is targeting the location, it's not targeting the enemy. Okay, so if it was targeting the enemy, like enemy loses fortification, then it would not apply. So very important. Now let's figure out how do we kill. We need to remove an enemy's elemental resistance. So that's quite easy. I think I saw it just now. Yeah, this guy here requires blue mana. I don't have any more mana anymore. I can use this guy, gain a blue mana. Okay, and then I can activate this guy. Ooh, does not attack. Yes. So this is a side effect of the enemy. So I need to cancel the attack of an enemy, and they will be losing their fire resistance. So let's do that. Activate, and just do this. Boom. So now they lost the fire resistance. Okay, so just this enemy. So even though both were lighted up, actually I was targeting this one. I should have done this in the battle phase, before battle phase, but this works here too. Okay, I've done that, but actually I need my card, so I want to undo. I just wanted to check that goal, battle goal. Now I need to defeat a group of enemies in the range phase. How do we do this? So I've already grouped them, and remember I can change it by clicking on the group here. Very, very easy. Now it's grouped. Group A requires 4 damage and is fire resistant. So I can click here. You can see here, fire resistance, 4 damage, only range or siege attacks can be used. All right, let's see. How do I generate 4 non-fire damage or 10 or 8 fire damage? Well, let's see what I have. I have a siege attack 3 here requiring green, which I have. Okay, and I have a range frost attack 3 that requires blue, but I don't have access to blue anymore. Would be nice though. Actually, physical or frost can work against fire damage. That would work. This one I definitely cannot use. And let's see my followers. Siege attack 4. Okay, that's pretty good. Now how can I get more? I need 4. Actually, just nice. 4. Okay, I can just activate this guy. Siege attack 4. Select this. Select my crystal. I have 4. Drag and drop. Boom. Now the group of enemies has been destroyed in the range phase, so they don't even deal damage. I don't have to deal with that problem. So great. Now the last thing we want to do is the last battle goal is to defeat a group of enemies in the attack phase. So now I have to deal with blocking them. So let's undo all these things. Okay, so I can close the group here if I want to close the group. Boom. Ignore location fortification, and this one is good. Actually, I don't need to ignore fortification anymore, but they will lose armor once, which is quite useful. But I have a lot of attacks, so let's just remove this, and instead I will remove the fire resistance because, actually let me show you why. So I have to deal with these two enemies. One has attack 3, the other one has attack 3. So both have attack 3, so they will do at least 4 damage, right? In the attack phase. So I have 1, 2, and I scroll down here, 3, 4. So I take 4 wounds out of this, which is not great. So how do I prevent these 4 wounds? This is where you can be a bit smart about how you use your cards. You see this one, target enemy does not attack and loses fire resistance. This looks like a perfect card to use against this guy so that I don't have to block it. So in my before battle phase, I will debuff it. Okay, select, activate, and I cancel the attack for this guy. Boom. So now he will not attack, he has an attack 0. So I don't have to block it, and now I only take 2 wounds. That's better. Now this guy now requires 3 blocks. So I can use this guy, block 3, easy, or this guy, block 3, easy. I don't know which one I should use because I have a green mana. Let's see. No, let's just use this guy first. Green mana and just block 3. So there is no one solution to this puzzle. There are many solutions. So it's really up to you what you want to do. So I've blocked it. Okay, so now I don't take any wound in the attack phase. Just nice. And I only use 1 follower and 1 card. Quite cool. And 1 mana. Very nice. Now, how do I kill them? Well, I need to do enough damage. So first I need to group them because that's the requirement. So I group and I group. So there is no fire resistance anymore. So I can go all in on fire attacks if I wanted to, but I do not have enough red mana. But you can see here, for example, if I needed red mana, I could play this card, which is sacrifice an action card to gain 2 crystal of the same color as the card. So I could sacrifice a red card. Let's say I sacrifice this red spell here, and I could get 2 reds and activate this guy and this guy. Or I could activate this guy too. Okay, actually let's do that. It's quite cool. Let's do it. So sacrifice a red card. Oh, only action cards. Okay, fine. But I will still need it. So let's just do attack 4. Let's do this. Let's do this. Select this. Activate. So now you see this card is sacrificed, but I have 2 mana crystals here and 1 green one. And so I could use this one to activate this. Give me a fire attack 4, activate, select the crystal. Okay, so I need 5, remember? And I need a 4th one. So I could use this to activate it. But I will take a wound for that, or I just need a basic one. Pay my red, and now I have enough to defeat the whole group. So I'm super overkill now. I do 8 instead of 5. But I just wanted to show you the ability to, synergize those cards so you can get the mana to activate the more powerful version of other stuff. Obviously, this is not optimal. So be careful when you do this because I used a lot of cards and a lot of mana to do this. So yeah, you can see it's not optimal here. But let's, I achieved my battle goals for the tutorial and I showed you a bunch of interesting combos. So I will stop here. Go to the after battle. You can read the tale, how you increase and decrease the buffs, the resistance and stuff. You can look at your status. I lost 1 reputation because to conquer that location, I had to assault the location. So that's just a byproduct of assaulting a location for conquering. And I'm ready to leave the battle. Yes. So that was the advanced battle tutorial. I hope you found it interesting. If you like what you see, again, please wishlist the game on Steam. You'll find the link in the YouTube video description. Thank you, and I see you in the next one.